Hi guys, and welcome back to another video Game with Powers. I'm Jake, and in today's video I'll be giving you guys an in-depth look at how to play the brand new board game Lords of Ragnarok, coming to you from Awaken Realms. Alright, so look, here's the scenario. You're back Lords of Ragnarok, you just got it in, you're hyped, you're excited to play it, you hit your friends up, tell them to come over for game night, and as you're getting all this stuff out, you're looking like, man, this is a lot of components here. You bust out the rule book and it might be a little intimidating, or you're just a visual person like me and you want to see things played out while you're reading it also, and some of the pictures in the rule book might just not do it for you. Well, look, then this is the video for you. As I said, I'm going to be giving you guys an in-depth look and showing you how to play, showing you what to do on your turns, and giving you a couple scenarios that might occur during the game so that you can familiarize yourself with the game a little bit better. Or maybe you can send this video, if you think I did a good job, to your friends and have them watch it before they come over to play so they are ready to go. So you're not taking hours to teach the game. But alright guys, let's go ahead and jump down to the table where I have everything set up for a playthrough of Lords of Ragnarok. Alright guys, so we are down here at the table where we have everything set up for a 3-player game of Lords of Ragnarok. In Lords of Ragnarok, the 3 to 4 player version of the game is going to be a little different than the solo and 2-player version, just because in the solo to 2-player version, you're using the other side of this board. But other than that, the way the turns are played are basically the same thing. There's just a little different caveats, and the same thing with the victory conditions. But let's take a look at how to play the 3 to 4 player version, or the standard version of Lords of Ragnarok. Before I get into this how to play, guys, I just want to let all of you know that the version of Lords of Ragnarok you were looking at today is kind of the deluxeified version, right? I'm sure obviously the first thing that stands out is the sun drop on all these miniatures. So all of your miniatures are going to have that sun drop coating to them, that sun drop finish to all of them. The second thing is the terrain expansion, okay? So the terrain expansion is going to bring in these settlement miniatures here. That's going to look something a little just like that. In the base version of the game, the settlements are just going to be printed on the board, so you can see here as such. And then they'll also be denoted by an icon here. Like in this particular area, you know that there's a settlement, so then you look to see where that settlement is printed on the board, okay? So that is the settlements. Also in the terrain expansion, all of your temples, they're going to be a miniature version of the temples, so they're going to look something just like that. In the base game, guys, they are going to be cardboard punch-out standees, okay? So you get the little punch-outs and then the stands to put them up in the base game. And then the last thing that comes in the terrain expansion that I don't have out is each of the realms are going to have a miniature. So this would be Muspelheim's miniature. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like using the miniatures a whole lot because they don't have any of the wording. So if you just put the miniature there, then you don't know what that realm does. And then some of them, like Muspelheim, works, but some of the other ones' realms are kind of small, and so these other miniatures take up that whole space, and so it just kind of gets more bothersome than it is adding table presence. But that's the terrain expansion. The next thing is going to be the runes. So we have the rune upgrade pack here. So all of your rune forges and your regular runes here are going to be plastic. And so this is what a rune forge is going to look like, the upgraded version, okay? In the base game, it's just going to be a cardboard punch out, and it's going to look something like that. All right, and then obviously you saw the smaller runes. They're plastic as well. Sorry, I know my fingers I got big fat fingers, all right? And then in the base game, these runes are going to look just like that, cardboard punch-outs. I'm going to go out on a limb here saying I actually prefer the cardboard punch-outs of the smaller runes because they're a little more distinct and visually than the actual plastic rune is. I wish they could have gave you like a sun drop finish on these plastic runes, but other than that, everything you see here out on the table is going to come in the base game. Okay, so Lords of Ragnarok, what is kind of the goal of Lords of Ragnarok? So essentially, you are going to be taking over a hero, you're going to be taking over an army, and there are 3 different paths that you can take to try and win the game, okay? The first one is going to be the player that controls 3 lands, okay? So I'm going to take this off real quick and just move it down here so we get some space. So you'll see that the board, there's different areas of the board broken up, separated by lines here. One of these areas is called a region. So if you take a look at this area right here in the yellow, this area, it's separated by lines. Just this area here is considered what is called a region, okay? In a region, you're going to have some numbers and some iconography here. So this black, the number that is in the black here, this 3, that's going to indicate the number of region that there is. So this is the 3rd region, the 4th, the 5th. There is 21 different regions. 21 is right here. 21 different total regions in the game, okay? In the middle here, you'll have a number with a banner, a color banner behind it. So the number itself indicates the strength of that region. So when you are trying to take over this region, if your total army strength is 2 or higher and they move in here, you'll be able to take that region. And again, that's you would have to move, like these 2 guys are 1. You would have to move both of them in to do it, but if you had one guy who was a 2 or higher, you would automatically take that over. Whenever you take over a region, you just put one of your control markers there on that spot, and you are now controlling this region, okay? A controlled region, a region that is controlled by you or another player, is considered a 0, okay? So if this guy, like I controlled that region, he moves into here, he's at a 1, boop, the blue player will now go ahead and control this region because it is considered a 0. All right, and then the icon right here on the right hand side just tells you what type of region there is. So there's a couple different types of region. You have these settlement regions, regions that where a settlement is. You have regions with a shrine. This will enable you to build a temple. And then you have, we'll look down over here on the right-hand side, you have kind of like 2 dragons in a U. This is a monument region, okay? That indicates that this region, there's a monument in here. And so when you control a region with a monument, you will gain an artifact card of that god whose monument that you controlled. So there's 3 artifacts: Odin's, Freya's, and Thor's artifacts. So if I were to control this region right here, I would gain access to Freya's artifact, which would give me a bonus. So I could say, use at the start of your turn, gain 1 chosen rune, okay? Whenever you gain a artifact of a god, again, you gain it charged up. Whenever you use it, you'll just rotate it 90 degrees. It now becomes exhausted. Whenever somebody takes the build monument action, it'll be, that kind of like resets the board kind of. You will go ahead and basically unexhaust that card, all right? Once a player takes control of a god artifact, if another player were to come in and take control of this region, so let's say the blue player stole this region from me, I would then have to give the god artifact to that blue player, okay? So that's kind of talking about the regions and the things that you'll see in these regions. Now, a land is a group of regions of the same color, okay? So let me move these guys down here real quick. So you see how this is yellow, yellow, yellow? So these 3 regions combine to form a yellow land. So once a player has controlled all 3 of these regions, he now controls the yellow land. And as I said earlier, a player will automatically win when they control 3 lands. So if a player controlled these 3 green regions, these 3 yellow regions, and then these 4 red regions down here, that player, whoever controlled all those, would automatically become the winner. So that is the first way to win the game, or the first goal. The second goal is a player that has controlled 5 regions with a built temple in them, okay? So again, you have to look for regions with this shrine symbol. And once you go there, you'll be able to take an action that will allow you to build a temple. So you'll just put a temple in this region, and if a player controls this region, he is 1/5 of the way from winning the game. So when a player controls 5 regions with a temple, so like here's another one up here in the top left, you got one right here, you got one right here, And then I believe there's one over here somewhere right there. Yep. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If that player controlled all 5 of these different regions, that player would be victorious and win automatically. All right. The last victory condition of the game is defeating the boss, which is Loki, okay? In order to even fight Loki, you will have to hunt monsters out on the board here. So you got 3 monsters out on the board. A player would have to be in that spot, hunt this monster. Once they defeat this monster, they'll go ahead and collect it, and they have to defeat 2. Once a player has defeated 2 monsters, he's then eligible to go and fight Loki. And if he defeats Loki, then that player is victorious. Again, I'll go over all that as we get later into the playthrough. But that is the 3rd victory condition of the game. There is one more final, like, end of game scenario that can happen, and that is Ragnarok, okay? So you have these Ragnarok requisite cards, and depending on your player count, there will be 5 each. So this is the 3+. So you'll have 5 different requisites here. And when a player takes that build monument action and kind of resets the board, you guys will check these requisites. So if one monument is fully built, if this is completed, you flip it face down, okay? If 3 of these 5 requisites are flipped face down, we are going to trigger Ragnarok, all right? And then everybody will take one last final turn, and the winner of the game will be the player who controls the most regions that are surrounding the Tree of Yggdrasil, which is the action wheel right here in the middle of the game, okay? So what would happen is these regions around that surround Yggdrasil, the player who controls the most of these regions will be victorious. If there is ever a tie, then basically the player who took the first turn or the earliest last turn will go ahead and be the winner of the game. So those are the 3 victory conditions to win, and then the final end game condition that can happen as well. So that's kind of the goal. Those are the things that you are looking for, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and dive in and talk about what a turn is going to look like on Lords of Ragnarok. What are the things that you're going to do, okay? So they give you a nice little, they give you a player aid card, and I'll go ahead and put one of these up on the screen so you guys can take a look at with me. So there's going to be 5 different steps that you're going to take on the turn. You'll have the prayer step, the hero step, the rune action step, the maneuver step, and the special action step. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with that very first step called prayer. All right, so looking at prayer, there's 2 sub-steps in this prayer step, and looking at the first one, it is called sending a priest. Okay, so each player is going to have 4 priests in their color, okay, and I just took one of the red guys here. If you have a priest available to you, all right, you will be able to send that priest to one of the 3 different monuments. Now, the ways you gain priests are taking the action build temple, or building a monument and you control a land that has a built temple in it. Those are your 2 ways you are going to be able to gain a priest, all right? So let's just say the red player has a priest over here. He's going to send 1 priest to the Thor monument, all right? Now, you do not have to control the regions with the monument in order to send a priest there, and your hero or an army does not have to be in that region that the monument is in. Your hero can be anywhere on the board, and you can send a priest to any monument that you want. So when you send a priest to a monument, there's only 2 spots available. So if both these spots are covered, then you're going to have to go to another monument. When you send it here, you're going to get a bonus for doing that. And so you'll take a look at this card right here. And so taking a look at Thor's card, I'll go put it up on the screen. You're going to get a bonus. So that bonus is the very base level. So starting out, you'll get +1 might. And then for every level after that, you'll get +1 might plus some extra cards. So that is going to be the bonus for sending that priest to Thor. Okay, so you're getting attributes to your might. So let's go ahead and talk about attributes for a sec. So this is going to be your player board. Everybody is going to have 3 different attributes. You're going to have authority, which is a flag, might, which is a hammer, and wisdom, which is a tree, okay? You're going to get these little arrows, and everybody's starting with base values of 2. So what does authority do? Authority is going to dictate how strong your armies are when they come out onto the board, okay? So if my authority is at a 4, all right, every time I drop an army out, instead of putting at 1, I'm going to rotate this little disc thing and put it at 4, and he comes out with a strength of 4, all right? Might is going to determine, I'm just saying my might is 3. This is going to determine how many cards you will draw whenever you're hunting monsters, and also your ability when you take the usurp action of taking over different regions. So there's an action where if my hero is in a region, I can, if my might value is equal to or higher than the strength of that region, I can automatically take that region over, okay? So that's where might is going to come into track. So I got a 3. So if my hero was in, I got a bad example, I can't find a 3 right here. So if my hero was in here and I did that usurp action, I'd be able to take that over, okay? And then the last one is wisdom. So wisdom is going to dictate how many cards that you can have in your hand, how many runes that you can hold in your supply, and then also when you're hunting monsters, your ability to maybe draw another card. So if my wisdom is at 5, I can have 5 cards in my hand, 5 runes, and then when we get to the monsters area, I'll show you where wisdom comes into play as well. So those are the 3 different attributes in the game. And then Thor is all about might. So whenever you send a priest to Thor, you get might. Odin is authority, and Freya is wisdom, okay? So that is the sending a priest step. If you have a priest, you choose one of the monuments, send your priest there, go ahead and gain that bonus. So the second step is called rune forging. If your hero is in a region with a forge right here, if you guys can see it, and there is a rune in there for you to take, you will go ahead and collect this rune and just go ahead and put it into your supply as such, just like this on this side of the board, all right? That is the rune forging step. So that is step number 1, the prayer step. Again, sending a priest. If you have a priest here, you can put them in one of the monuments. You do not have to control that region or have your hero in that region to be able to send a priest to them. When you send it there, you go ahead and gain the bonus. And then the second sub-step is if your hero is in a region with a forge and there is a rune in there, you can collect that rune. Now, I also didn't mention if you are already full up on runes. So at the start of the game, everybody can only hold 2 runes. If I already had 2 runes, I could either choose to discard that rune, or if I wanted that rune, I could discard one of my others, and I would have to, I'd have to discard one of my others in order to collect that rune. Okay, so that is step number 1. All right, so let's move on to the second step of your turn. We have the hero step, okay? In this hero step, you're going to choose one of these 3 possible actions. So you will either heal your hero, move the hero by up to 2 regions, or move the Drakkar by up to 2 seas, okay? So let's go take a look at healing your hero. So I've got my player board back here. Throughout the course of the game, you guys might take an injury, and whenever it tells you to take an injury, you will choose one of these attributes here and flip it over to the backside showing a red number 2, all right? What this means is that no matter what level you are on, this attribute is now considered a 2. So let's take a look at the wisdom attribute here, right? Mine was at a 5, but I become injured, so it's now considered a 2. So this means I can now only have 2 cards in my hand and 2 runes in my pool over here, basically. So at this time, if I had more than 2 cards and 2 runes, I would have to discard down to 2. So that first step, healing your hero, basically what you're going to do is you're just going to take one of these arrows and flip them back over to the normal side, and that attribute becomes that level that it's at again. So let's say I heal my wisdom attribute. I'm now back to 5, and I can have 5 cards and 5 runes in my pool. Okay, so that is the heal your hero action, all right? The second action you have the possibility to choose from is basically moving your hero up to 2 regions. This is simple. Again, all the lines denote the region, so if I wanted to move up to 2, I could go 1 and 2, just like that, or I can move 1. However, as soon as you cross a line, that considers 1 movement, and everything must be adjacent, right? So it doesn't matter what direction you can do, but actually that's not adjacent. So that's adjacent, that's adjacent, that's adjacent, just so forth. I could not make the move to that one, but you'll move your hero up to 2 regions, and then the last action you have to choose from is move your Drakor, your ship, up to 2 Cs, okay? So I know this bottom area might be cut off a little bit, but you'll see these blue lines there. There's a blue line here, blue lines here, blue lines here. There is different Cs that are around the board, so you can move your ship up to 2 different Cs, okay? Now, the benefit of doing this is your hero and your armies can move with your Drakor. Well, I don't want to say with, but they can move essentially onto your Drakor into another region that your Drakor that is adjacent to the sea that your Drakor is in, okay? So I think the best example I can do here is, let's say my Drakor was in this little small area right here, okay? So this sea, and I'll move this real quick, this sea encompasses this entire area. So anytime I want to move an army that's adjacent to this sea, I can move it this space, and this space, okay? So really what I could do is, if my army was here, right, and I wanted to get to this 3 space, I could move my army through my Drakor onto this 3 space, and that counts as 1 movement, okay? So like moving them through the Drakor onto that space, that is a valid movement. So because remember, this whole area is the sea, so it encompasses all of that. So it kind of gets tricky a little sometimes, but that is a movement step that I think a lot of people forget about, is your hero and your armies can move through your Drakor into another region that is adjacent to the sea your Drakor is in. Okay, so that is kind of the benefit of moving your Drakor around, because your armies can move into those seas. Now, again, these armies must be in a region that is adjacent to your Drakor. So, like I said in that example, my army was here. I'm in a region that is adjacent to the sea my Drakor is in, so then it's eligible to move to a new region that is adjacent in the sea. All right, I hope that makes sense. So those are the 3 actions that you have to choose from with this hero step. Again, heal your hero. You'll be able to heal a wound if you ever sustain one. Move your hero up to 2 regions, and then move your Drakor up to 2 different seas. All right. The next step on your turn is going to be the Rune Action, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put this Rune Action card up here. So you'll be able to, you'll choose how many runes you want to spend. So do you want to spend 1 rune, 2 rune, or 3 runes, okay? So you are first going to select how many runes you want to spend, because you can only take 1 of these rune special actions. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting at the spending 1 rune action, okay? So there's 3 different things that you have the option to do here. You can only take 1. So you can either take control over a neutral monster in a region with your hero, activate your boss ability in a region with their hero, or form an alliance with an adjacent realm. And if you were the first person to do so, you will draw a combat card, all right? So let's take a look at taking control over a neutral monster in a region with your hero. Basically, if this would be a neutral monster right here, if my hero is in the same region as this monster, all I would have to do is pay the corresponding rune that matches with this monster. So we got Huldra right here. So taking a look at Huldra's card, you see she has an N in this top right hand corner. So if I had a N rune, I would spend that N rune, and then what I would do is take my big disc here that they give you, and I would place it underneath Huldra, basically taking control of Huldra, okay? And I'll just do it like that, just for right now. So now I have control over this monster. There's another step that I can do, I think, by spending 2 runes, where I can activate that monster, and I'll kind of go over that during that step. But that is essentially take control over a neutral monster in a region with my hero, okay? The second thing is activate the boss ability in a region with your hero. So if my hero is in the same region with Loki, the same thing. What I need to do here is if I spend the N rune, I'll be able to activate this effect, which is place Loki in any region. So I spend a N rune and then I can put him anywhere on the board that I would like. This can be advantageous because somebody might have already slayed 2 monsters and been close to Loki, so you can move him all the way to the other side of the map. All right, so that is activate the boss ability in a region with a hero. The third one is form an alliance with a realm that you are adjacent to. So we'll take a look at the blue player over here. He is adjacent to the realm Alfheim. So if he spends a 1 rune with the Y symbol, he will be able to form an alliance with Alfheim. And what you'll do is you'll just put one of your control markers there on that alliance. A player can form an alliance with all of the different realms, and all of the players can form an alliance with all the realms, so there can be multiple control markers on that realm, okay? So every player has the opportunity to form an alliance with every single realm that is out on the board. If you are the first player to form an alliance with a realm, you will go ahead and draw 1 combat card, okay? But only the first player to do that. So that is the third action that you have to choose from, which is forming an alliance with that adjacent realm that your hero is in, okay? So those are the 3 actions. You'll choose one of those 3 actions again from spending 1 of the corresponding rune. Again, you can take control of a neutral monster that of the region that your hero is in by paying that required rune. You can activate the boss if your hero is in the region with the boss, and then if your hero is in a region that is adjacent to a realm, you spend that the corresponding rune, and you will form an alliance with that realm. If you are the first person to form an alliance with that realm, you will draw 1 combat card. All right, let's take a look at if you spend 2 different runes, okay? There's 4 different possible actions you can take here. The first one is increase the value of one of your armies by 1, activate a neutral or your controlled monster, place your hero in any region, and draw 1 combat card. All right, so taking a look at the very first one, increase the value of one of your armies by 1. So you'll just take one of your armies right here, and you will increase that value by 1, so going from 1 to 2. Okay, simple as that. One of your armies out on the board, raise it up 1. All right. So let's take a look at the next action. You have activate a neutral or a controlled monster, okay? So if you activate a neutral monster, what you're going to do is roll this red dice, okay? There's 3 different icons on this red dice. There's an arrow, which indicates movement. There's a fire, which indicates the monster's attack region ability. And then there's both of them with a line between it. That is basically your option, okay? So if it lands on the arrow here, basically you would move the monster 1 adjacent into another adjacent region that the region that is in. So if I'm in Huldra, I can move her any of these 1 space in an adjacent region, okay? If a monster lands in a region with an army, okay, it does something called stomp, all right? And what that stomp does is that army is going to lose 1 strength value. So this guy's at a 2, he would go ahead and drop down to 1. If you have multiple armies in the region, you will choose 1. So whichever one you want to choose, you will go ahead and stomp that specific army. Now, if an army's value ever drops below 1, this army becomes defeated and gets taken off the board, okay? So there is a possibility where your guy's at a 1 and the monster can come in, stomp, drop him down, and he is dead and he goes off the board, okay? So that is a neutral monster. So that's the movement of the neutral monster. The fire icon here, you will activate the attack region ability. So each monster is going to have some different abilities here. So the attack region one says increase the value of one army in a region with Huldra or any adjacent region by 1. Okay, so you will go ahead and activate that special effect. Now that's a pretty good effect. Not all of them are that good. Most of them do harm or damage to you. But that is activating the attack region. So again, if it's a neutral monster, you roll the die, you do the desired outcome, that's you get the roll. If you control the monster, then it's your choice. You can choose to either move or activate the region attack. So that is activating that neutral monster. The third step or the third action you could take is place your hero in any region on the board. So you go ahead and pick wherever you want to put your hero. And the last one is draw one combat card. All right, so running through all four of those again, this is if you spend 2 different runes, you'll be able to increase the value of one of your armies by 1, activate a neutral or controlled monster. If it's a neutral monster, you roll the dice, do the desired outcome. If you control a monster, it's your choice of what you want to do. If a monster moves into a land that has an army in it, it will stomp and reduce that by 1. If your guys ever drop below 1, it's dead. If you have 2 armies in there, then basically you choose which army you want to stomp, all right? The third thing is place your hero in any region on the board. And the last thing is draw one combat card. All right, moving on to the last one is spending 3 different runes here. So if you spend 3 different runes, the first thing that you can do is increase the lowest attribute that is on your, of all of your attributes here. So might would be my lowest one. I spend 3 different runes, bam, I get to move my might up to 4. If I were to do this again, anytime there's a tie, it's your choice. So both of these are at 4, so I would choose one of these to increase by 1. All right. So that is the first thing that you can do there. And then the last thing is draw 2 combat cards. All right. Spend 3 different runes, draw 2 combat cards. So that is the final choice you have, is spend 3 different runes to either increase your lowest attribute, or basically draw 2 combat cards. So those are all of the rune actions that you can take. Again, remember, you are only going to be able to take 1 of these rune actions. So you will choose either if you want to spend 1 rune, 2 runes, or 3, and then you will choose 1 of those corresponding actions depending on what how many runes that you're going to spend. All right, moving on to the 4th step of your turn, we have the maneuvers action, okay? So the maneuvers action is going to pertain to your army. So we'll take a look at the red army down here. So what you will do is you will choose one of your armies on the board and you're going to activate that army, okay? So there's 2 things that you can do, and you'll choose one of these 2 things. So if your army is in a region with a settlement and you control this region right here, you can increase the value of that army by 1. So both of these guys are in this region. There's a settlement. I control it. So I choose one of these guys, increase him from a 1 to a 2. That's the first thing that you can do. Or the second thing that you can do is move an army to an adjacent region, okay? And then if you move into a region where your army's strength is equal to or greater, you then take control of that region. So let's say he moves into this region. This is a 4. I don't take control of that. But if I were to move into that one, that's a 2. I would take control of that region right there, okay? So if you don't have an army on the board to activate during this step, you can then recruit an army from your pool out onto the board. You will have to place this army in a region that is adjacent to one of the regions in the sea of your draw core, okay? And this army will come out with the strength of what your authority is. So if I have no armies out right now, I get an army out on the board with a strength of 4. But that is the 4th step on your turn, the maneuver action, okay? You choose one of your armies, you either move them or increase the value by 1 if you're in a region that you control with a settlement, or if you have no armies on the board, you recruit an army onto a region that is adjacent to the sea that your draw core is in, and he is coming out with the strength is going to be what your authority value is, all right? Moving on to the very last step of your turn, we're taking a look at these special actions here, all right? So there are 7 different special actions that you can take. 6 right here, and then the one in the middle is the build monument action, all right? So at the end of... once you've done those 4 steps, the 5th final step is you will choose an action to do on your turn. Whenever you're choosing one of these special actions, you will take your disc and put it on the space that you have chosen for that action, okay? If a player ever puts one of their control markers on top of yours, like they take the same action, so the red player has taken this Mobilize action, the black player wants to take the Mobilize action like that. Now, what would happen is the red player can gain 1 rune of their choice, all right? This will not stack it's only the player that is like farthest up on top of the chain. So for example, let's say the blue player wants to come in and do the mobilize action. Even though the red marker is all the way at the bottom, the red player would not get another rune. Only the black player would get a rune. It's only the control marker that is getting covered up will get that rune, okay? The last thing is whenever you take one of these actions, you'll notice that there is the realms in wording right above that action. So like taking a look at the mobilize action, it says Vanaheim above it, all right? If you take that action, any players that are aligned with that realm will be able to get the bonus the first time that action is taken. So let's say the red player takes the mobilize action. So this is Vanaheim. So any player that has an alliance with Vanaheim would be able to gain one rune of your choice. Again, this is only going to activate one time, or the first time that the player puts that marker down. Okay, so if a black player took the mobilize action, this is not going to activate. It's only the first time somebody goes there is when that activates, okay? So that is the last part of the control markers in regards to the realms. So let's go ahead and talk about all these actions. So again, we'll start off with mobilize. This one's pretty easy. What you're going to do is activate all of your armies on the board. The activation rules applies as they did in the maneuver step. So you'll choose as many armies as you want. You got to activate at least one guy. And again, the steps are simple. Either you will increase the strength of him by 1 if he's in a settlement with a region that you control, or you can move him. All right, so those are basically the two things you can do. Again, you can do it with all your armies on the board, but you must do at least one army. All right, the second action is going to be prepare. All right, so there's 4 different things that you can do in this prepare action, and so you're going to choose 2 of these. You can't choose the same one twice. So the first one is increase the value of one of your armies by 1 if they're in a region you control with a settlement, all right? So you can do this twice if you want to, or you can just do it once. The next thing is draw 1 combat card. The third thing is gain 1 rune of your choice, and the fourth thing is heal 1 injury, all right? So you're going to choose 2 of these 4 actions, or you can choose the same action twice, and that is the prepare step. The next step we're going to do is the Usurp, and I'm kind of jumping around here, just following the player aid card, is the Usurp step, all right? So if my hero is in a region where my might is equal to or greater than the strength of that region, what I can do is immediately take over that region, all right? So let's say I'm in this region right here. My strength or my might value is a 4, okay? So I'm eligible to take over this region, which I would. So bam, there we go. If there are any player armies in this region, let's say there's 2 player armies in this region, this strength of this region would be considered 2, okay, not 0. So still, I will be able to do it because my might is 4, all right? If I do that usurp action, these armies right here are going to have to withdraw, okay? So you will have to withdraw your armies at 2 points, I remember off the top of my head, in the game, whenever a player takes the usurp action or if you end up losing a battle. If you must withdraw your armies, you must withdraw them to a region that you control, okay? If there are no such region, if there's a region that you do not control, like this example right here, this black player doesn't own any of these regions around here, then both of these guys are off the board. They just die automatically, all right? But however, if there was a region that he controlled, let's say he controlled this 3 region, and I did this usurp action, he would just move both these guys back into that region, all right? So again, and then the last final piece of this usurp action, then you will be allowed to recruit an army in this region, and he is coming out with the same authority, or he is coming out with the value of your authority. So my authority here is at a 4, and his strength is at a 4 as well. All right. I also forgot to mention, this is probably a good time, all heroes are going to have a special ability, which is denoted here. And so for Brunhild, her special ability is when in a land with Brunhild, after one of your armies is decreased or killed in battle, you draw 1 rune or combat card. I forgot to mention that earlier, okay? But that is the usurp step, okay? You cannot usurp a region that another player's hero is in. So if Snorri was in this region, which is the black player and the red hair, I cannot usurp that region. So again, the usurp, this usurp special action is if my hero is in a region and my might attribute value is equal to or higher than this region, I can take over that region and then just take it over, and then I recruit an army into that region with the value of my authority, all right? If there are other players, heroes or armies, in that region, they must withdraw to an adjacent region they control. If there is no such region that they control, then this guy goes off the board, okay? He essentially dies. So that is the usurp action, all right? The next one is building a temple. So if you control a region with a shrine, okay, you can take the build temple action. And essentially what you're going to do is take a temple, miniature or standee, and put it in that area, okay? During the beginning of the game, they have you set up what's called a draft card, essentially. And so what's going to happen is all of these temples, you're going to fill all these slots, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and every time you build a temple, you'll just take it off from 1 to 2 to 3. Whenever you uncover a spot that says draft, you're going to do something called a blessings draft, okay? So there's a blessings deck in this game. These are like power-ups that are going to remain for the rest of the game. And so what's going to happen is the person that started the draft, you're going to shuffle this deck and draw cards equal to the number of players plus 1, okay? So in a 3-player game, we would draw 4 cards. That player who uncovered the draft is going to look at these 4 cards, pick one, and then pass the others around the table. There'll be one left over. You just discard that one. But these are doing different things. So this one says, for example, during the maneuver step, instead of moving your army, you may place that army in any neutral or your controlled regions, okay? That's actually a pretty good card right there. So this card will stay with you for the remainder of the game, and you will always have this ability or special blessing / power-up. And then whenever you build this temple, you will go ahead and gain a priest into your pool. And whenever you gain a priest, you just put them in a slot right here, and there's 4 slots on your board for that, all right? So that is the building a temple action, all right? The next one we're going to do is reinforce. So we got a reinforce action right here. What you're going to do is basically you're placing a new army with a value of your authority out into any region that is adjacent to the sea where your Drakor is in, all right? Or in a controlled region with a settlement. So again, example here, visual example. I control this region with a settlement. Boop, pop my guy out. He's actually coming out with a 4. Let me put him out on a 4 because my authority value is a 4 here. So he pops out at a 4. I control this region with the settlement. Or I can bust him out somewhere over here because he's in a region that is adjacent to my Drakor, all right? So that is the reinforce step. So place an army with the value of your authority in a region you control with a settlement or a region that is adjacent to your Drakor. All right, time for the very last one is the monster step, okay? So whenever your hero is in a region with a monster, whether this monster is neutral, controlled by another player, or controlled by you, you will go ahead and initiate a hunt. And so what is going to happen when you initiate a hunt is you'll basically go over here and take a look at Holdra's card, okay? So what the objective of a hunt is, you're going to battle this monster and try and fight it. And so you will try and cover all 6 of these spaces here by playing cards that match the icons. And I'll go more in depth to this, but you see this is a spear icon right here. So there's a spear icon. So if I played this card, I could cover that up. Once all these spaces are covered, you have successfully defeated the monster. So let's take a look at how these hunts work. So what you're going to do is the person that is to your left, I believe, is the person that is going to get this monster attack deck, okay? They're going to go ahead and shuffle it, and they're going to draw 2 cards from the top of the deck, all right? You will, let's say, however many cards you got in your hand. So let's just say I got 1 card in my hand. You will then draw cards equal to the value of your might. So we got a 4 here, all right? So I would draw 4 additional cards, and during a hunt, you are allowed to exceed standard hand limit rules. So now I got my 4 cards, all right? Okay, so let's take a look at these monster cards, and I'm going to put them down there real quick. So you'll see a couple things on the card. Taking a look at the very top portion of the card, there's wording right here. And that basically is going to tell you how many more cards as the monster that you're going to draw. So if the monster deck is ever empty at the start of that monster round, then the hunt will automatically end, okay? So there's advantages to playing cards that allow you to draw more, okay? Looking at these 2 numbers in the middle, okay? The number on the left-hand side indicates the strength of the attack that the monster is hitting you with. So we got a 3 here and a 5 here. The number on the right-hand side is called the weak spot value, okay? So again, I'm going to be playing cards that are either going to add up to or be greater than the strength of what the monster did. So for example, let's look. Let's say he played this card, so I play a 3, right? So I successfully defend this attack. So now what I would do is I would have this 3 right here. I would add my wisdom value to that, so it misses at a 5, so mine is at an 8. So if that total value, your wisdom combined with the value of the card that you played, or cards that you played, is equal to or greater than that weak spot value, you will get to draw an additional card during this phase, okay? And then the bottom wording right here is if this attack is ever successful, like I cannot defend it. So let's just say I just had this 1 card. So I cannot defend against either of these. I would have to take the attack. Basically, I would read this wording and do that effect. So this would deal 2 injuries to me, and then this would deal injuries to all attributes without injuries, okay? So that's kind of how the monster cards work. Taking a look at the player cards, for the player cards have 2 different sections to them. The bottom section we're going to ignore for now because that's player versus player battles. We're going to look at this top area that says hunt, okay? So basically all I'm trying to do is play cards that match the value or the strength of what the monster person played in this phase, okay? This wording pertains to my attack phase. So like I said, let's say he played this card on the left. I got a 3 right here. I am blocking this attack. So when I have successfully defended the attack, the next thing I would do, well, technically the monster player would discard the card that he didn't use, all right? So this would be the card that's out. I defend the attack. This card would become discarded, all right? And then I would get to draw a card. So I get to automatically draw a card. Now I check that weak spot value. So mine was 5. I played that 3, so I would get to draw an additional card, all right? And then the final thing would do is at the end of this round, the monster would draw cards equal to the number that it says on the card. So that is 3, all right? And then this card would become discarded, all right? And then, I mentioned it, at the first step of that monster phase is you check to see if the deck is empty. If it's empty, the hunt automatically ends, okay? Okay, so now, after I've successfully defended the attack, it's my turn to try and do some damage to Holdra here. So again, on this phase of you are just looking at playing some of these icons in the top left-hand corner. Sometimes this wording will come into effect. So like this Syax says, instead of dealing a wound with the Syax symbol, you may use it in combination with the shield to deal any type of wound. Unfortunately, I don't have any shields, but they each have their each special effects, like the bow. When you play this card, deal a wound to a monster, draw a combat card, then discard 1 combat card, all right? So what you're going to do, again, play these cards from your hand and deal wounds. So let's say I play this bow card, right? So I'm going to look on here. There is a bow, all right? So I would cover that up, and now I am 1/6 of the way from beating her. You'll notice here that there are some spots with wording underneath them, okay? Those are bonuses that the player can receive for completing these icons. So, like I had that bow, and it says rune, so once I did that, I would be able to get a rune of my choice. If I did that, I get an army +1, and then that one I get to make an alliance with a realm, okay? You can cover these up in any order. You don't have to go this 3, then this 3, or like I can go that way, or I can combination the 2. However you want to do it is totally up to you, all right? And during this phase, you can put down and try and cover up as many markers as you want to. You must at least put 1 marker down and be successful in attack for the hunt to continue, okay? If at any point in time a player covers all 3 of these markers and the hunt ends, they will be able to get access to the artifact card of that monster. So there's monster artifacts. Again, if a player covers up the 3 unworded, they get access to this artifact, and once they gain access to that artifact, that is in their permanent control, because once these spots are covered up, they can never be uncovered, or nobody can go on top of there and do that, okay? So again, essentially what you're doing is putting these cards and trying to match these icons. If you are successful in covering all of the icons, the monster is defeated, and you will go ahead and take this monster miniature and put it in your area to denote that you have defeated 1 monster. And if none of these spots were covered and you defeated it, you gain the reward of that artifact, okay? If a player has covered, let's say, because you can steal monsters, if a player has covered 4 spaces and then you come in and take the final 2 hits, say the blue player comes in and takes the final 2 hits, the blue player would get the credit for the kill, and he would take the miniature, but the red player would also get what's called a Slayer token, right? So he gets a Slayer token, which counts as one of the two monster requirements for killing Loki. So if a player has at least 4 control markers on there, when a monster is defeated, they get a Slayer token, which counts as it's considered a monster in regards to being able to battle Loki. All right, so there are a couple ways that the hunt becomes unsuccessful, all right? And so a hunt is considered unsuccessful when the hero is going to take an injury, but all of their attributes are already injured, all right? So if all of my things are turned over here on the red side, and I had to take an injury, the hunt will immediately end, okay? The next thing is that monster attack deck is empty at the start of the turn. The next one, an effect from a monster card says the attack is over, or so whether it's a card or a special ability, some might say that. And then the last one, the hunting player does not or cannot deal at least 1 wound to the monster. You must deal at least 1 wound in order to keep continuing on with the hunt, all right? Whenever a hunt does end unsuccessfully, you must take at least 1 wound, all right? So that was the monster action, all right? Moving on to the final action we have is this one in the middle, which is the build monument action. So in order for you to take this build monument action, you must have one of your other control markers out in one of the main 6 actions of the game. If you have at least 1 control marker out, then you will be eligible to take the build monument action. So let's take a look at this build monument action. The first thing that you're going to do is choose to build the next level of a monument, all right? So you will take these awesome looking monument figurines here. So this is Thor, Odin, and then I have Freya's monument right here. They can actually be broken up into 3 different pieces right here. So you have the body, or you got the legs, the body, and then I don't want to take his head off, but his head will come. When you're building a monument, what you're just going to do is take this piece and stick it right there just like that, all right? So now you have built the first level of a monument, all right? Then what you'll do is, remember, you'll check these Ragnarok requisites. If anybody has completed any of these, you'll flip them face down, all right? The next thing you'll do is all of the players are going to take all of their priests from all the monuments away. You'll take all your control markers off the action wheel. If you had any artifacts, and you spent either your god artifacts or your monster artifacts, if you exhausted them at this time, you get to unexhaust them, all right? And then we're going to basically refresh all the forges on the board. So any forges that were empty, we'll put that corresponding rune in there, all right? So whoever took that build monument action, the builder of that monument, they will gain 1 priest all right, for every region that they control with a temple, okay? So this is that other way to gain priests, because essentially once you build a temple or another player builds a temple in an area with a shrine, you cannot come in and build another temple, so you essentially lose that ability to build that temple and get a priest, okay? And so this is kind of that way to help you get priests. So if you control these areas, you would get a priest. So if I control that, if I built the monument, I get one priest into my pool, all right? And then if they are in any regions that they control with a forge, they will also get the rune in that forge as well, all right? So like if I control this red area down here and this green area right here, I would be able to get that rune in that rune because I control both those regions in that forge, all right? And then the last thing we would do is draw and resolve an event card, all right? So this is how an event card would work. So you have a number, you got some icons with a place and icons with an activate, all right? So the number up top is going to indicate the region that we're going to be looking at here. So this is region 19, which is right here. It's going to say place. So I will now place a monster out on the board with that symbol, okay? If both these monsters are already out on the board, I'm just going to ignore it. If these monsters are captured, I'm going to, like hunted, I'm going to ignore it as well. But if there is a monster with that Y symbol that is not yet on the board, I would go ahead and take them and place them into region number 19, all right? Then down here at the bottom, activate. These are the monsters that we're going to activate. So any monster that has the N symbol, we're going to activate. Again, if they're neutral, you're rolling the die. If somebody controls them, it's their choice. We'll activate any monsters with an X, and if it has this symbol, that means we will activate the boss, okay? And we're going to activate Loki. That is the build monument special action. All right, so that is all of the 7 possible actions on your turn. The final thing I want to talk about is battling between the armies, okay? So let's say I got some armies here, and let me grab this guy and his armies here, all right? So if armies ever move into a region with another player's armies, a battle is going to ensue, okay? What's going to happen at this point in time? Players will have the option to play cards from their hand. Okay, so I'm going to give 2 cards to this player and 2 cards to this player. We're going to pretend that I'm playing as both. So what's going to happen first is the defender is going to have the ability to play a card. So let's just say the black army is the defenders and the red is the attackers. So the black army is going to look at his 2 cards. He's going to have the ability to play either one of these cards. So now for this one, again, you're looking at the value, but then you're also looking at the wording and the icons right here, the skull icons in the bottom left-hand corner. So you'll read these and see what they can do for you. So like this one, +2 if you're the attacker. So the black player is the defender, so probably not worth playing this card. This one is probably better, right? You get 2, and then he gets +1 for having at least 2 armies, which he does. So the defender will play a card, and then it goes to the attacker. The attacker will have the option to play a card. So you guys will basically play 1 card at a time back and forth until both of you pass, okay? Once the defender passes and the attacker passes, what you will do is add up all the values and the bonus wording of your cards to the strength of your army, all right? So you would add up to see who is the winner, okay? You first will start with the loser. So whoever is the loser of the battle must automatically deal 1 casualty or 1 damage to all of their armies in the area. Again, if these armies ever drop below 1, they are removed from the game. Let's just say he's at 3, just for this example. He's at 2 for this example. So this guy will be a 1, so he gets defeated, and this guy goes down to a 1, all right? Then you're going to deal casualties based on the number of cards you played with casualty symbols on them. So this skull and crossbones symbol right here is that casualty symbol. So this is 2. So he would have to deal 2 casualties to any armies remaining, and that can be split up any way you would like, right? So I can deal 2 to 1 guy, 1, or however you want, but let's just say this guy ended up surviving, okay? At this point in time, the loser is going to have to withdraw. And again, the same withdrawal requirements applied as before. You must withdraw into a region that you control. If there are no regions that you control that is adjacent to this region, then this army gets removed from the board, all right? And then you're going to do the same thing for the winner side. The winner is going to apply his casualties as such to his. And so, like, he would go down 1 there, and then this guy would be removed off the board. All right, well, that is battling in a nutshell. All right, guys, well, look, this is a pretty long video, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off short and sweet here. But this is an in-depth look and how to play of Lords of Ragnarok. I hope this video helped. I hope it makes sense. As always, guys, please go ahead and drop down in the comments below if I missed any rules or said something incorrectly. I appreciate all you guys' constructive criticism. Go ahead and drop a like if you found this video helpful. And as always, if you guys are not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe so we can keep bringing you more awesome content. All right, guys, y'all have a great one. Bye.